Welcome to our deep dive into the future of leadership.
Oh, yeah.
You've given us a really thought-provoking mix of articles and research,
Yeah.
and we're on a mission to pull out those core principles that will be essential for leading in a world that feels like it's changing by the minute.
It really does feel like that.
We're going to be focusing especially on how you can develop those adaptive and inclusive skills that are going to be so critical going forward. What's fascinating is the range of voices we're hearing from.
Yeah.
We have CEOs,
Researchers.
even a former Girl Scout CEO.
We're going to get perspectives from global giants like P&G and IBM.
Nonprofits like the Girl Scouts.
And even a deep dive into the unique leadership style at Southwest Airlines.
I'm excited.
It's like a masterclass in leadership, but custom made for you. And the first thing that really struck me as I was going through all this material is just how much the world of business is changing.
Yeah.
Globalization, technology, demographics. It's a whirlwind out there.
It really is. And that's having a huge impact on how companies operate.
Oh, and of course.
And, of course, how they need to be led.
Right.
One of the articles talked about the flattening of the global economy. This idea that traditional hierarchies are being challenged by a surge in entrepreneurship and interconnectedness. That's a pretty big deal.
It is a big deal.
Like a whole new ballgame. So
Yeah.
how do you even begin to adapt to that?
I don't know.
I mean, how can you lead effectively in a world that's constantly shifting under your feet?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the researchers we're looking at, Lawler and Worley,
Okay.
they actually break it down into 5 key capabilities that organizations need to cultivate to be truly future-ready.
Okay.
Talent, leadership, agility, what they call an outside-in connection, and purpose.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Break it down for us. Why are these 5 capabilities so essential?
Well, let's start with talent.
Okay.
It's not just about attracting the best and brightest anymore. It's about holding on to them and making sure you're using their talents effectively.
Yeah.
Companies are starting to realize that fostering trust, providing opportunities for growth and meaningful work,
Yeah.
and even creating a sense of community are critical.
It's like you said,
Yeah.
it's a totally different world.
It is.
People aren't just looking for a paycheck.
Right.
They want to feel valued, they want to grow,
Mhm.
and they want to be part of something bigger.
Exactly. And that leads us right into the next capability,
Great.
leadership itself.
Okay.
We're moving away from the old command and control model.
Yeah.
Future-ready leadership is about developing leaders at every level of the organization,
Right.
making sure that everyone feels empowered to contribute and make a difference.
So it's less about one person at the top calling the shots.
Right.
And more about creating a culture where leadership is distributed throughout the organization.
Precisely.
Okay.
And then there's agility,
Okay.
which is all about speed and responsiveness.
Right.
Think about companies like Google or Apple that are constantly adapting, innovating,
Yeah.
and staying one step ahead of the curve.
Right.
It's not easy, but it's essential for survival in this fast-paced environment.
So you've got to be quick on your feet and ready to pivot at a moment's notice.
They do.
Okay, I'm seeing how these pieces fit together,
Yeah.
but what about this outside-in connection? What does that even mean?
It's about being deeply connected to your stakeholders,
Okay.
your customers, your employees, the community, the world around you. It's about understanding their needs and building a strong reputation for social responsibility.
Okay.
And honestly, this is something that's becoming increasingly important,
Yeah.
especially for those millennial and Gen Z employees who want to work for companies that are making a positive impact on the world.
So it's not just about profit anymore, it's about purpose and values.
You got it. And that takes us to the 5th capability, purpose.
Okay.
It's about having a clear, compelling mission that resonates not only with your employees, but with everyone who interacts with your organization.
Yeah.
Think about companies like Merck, who are driven by a purpose that goes way beyond just making money.
Okay.
They're focused on improving human life.
Hmm.
And that kind of deep-seated purpose is what drives their success.
Okay, so we've got these 5 capabilities.
Yes.
Talent, leadership, agility, outside-in connection, and purpose. I'm already seeing how they all connect and support each other.
Yeah.
But the question is, how do you actually build an organization that embodies these principles?
Well, a few of our sources highlight a really interesting trend.
Okay.
This move away from those traditional hierarchical structures towards something that's more fluid and team-based.
Okay.
They call it a horizontal organization.
Ah, yes. Getting rid of all that red tape and bureaucracy.
Right.
It sounds refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to admit, I'm a little curious about how leadership functions in this kind of environment.
Yeah.
If everyone is empowered, who's actually steering the ship?
That's where it gets really interesting. In a horizontal organization, leadership becomes less about giving orders and more about empowering your team,
Okay.
fostering collaboration, and creating a culture of trust and accountability.
So it's less about being a heroic leader at the top
Right.
and more about being a facilitator and coach.
Exactly. And, there's some great examples of this in action. One source highlighted the leadership team at Endo Pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
Carol Ammon and Marianne McDonald.
Yeah.
They were a real power duo with complementary skills and a shared vision that propelled the company to success.
Right.
And of course, you can't forget about Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer at Microsoft.
Those are some serious leadership heavy hitters.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if finding the right partner is almost as important as having the right skills yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, two heads are better than one, right?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It seems like being able to build strong, collaborative relationships is going to be more and more important in this new world of leadership.
Right.
And speaking of important skills... Okay.
One of the sources really emphasized the critical role of judgment.
Okay.
And not just in the sense of making quick decisions,
Right.
but the entire process of gathering information,
Okay.
weighing options, anticipating consequences,
Yeah,
and learning from experience.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
In a world that's as complex and unpredictable as ours,
Mm-hmm.
good judgment seems like it would be more valuable than ever.
I think so.
But is that something you can learn? Or are some people just born with good judgment?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
One of the authors, Kennedy,
Okay.
she talks about leadership as a perpetual practice.
Okay.
It's this idea that leadership isn't a destination you arrive at,
Right.
but rather a constant process of learning,
Yeah.
adapting, and evolving.
I love that. Perpetual practice. It's like
Mhm.
you're always a student,
Right.
always growing and refining your skills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she argues that judgment is a skill you can absolutely hone through deliberate practice and reflection.
She even outlines some specific qualities that leaders should cultivate.
Okay.
Want to hear them?
Absolutely. Lay it on me.
Okay.
What are the secrets to developing good leadership judgment?
First and foremost, it's all about building strong relationships.
Okay.
Get to know people,
Mm-hmm.
understand their perspectives,
Yeah.
and learn to appreciate their differences.
Okay.
Then, make learning a constant part of your life.
Okay.
Be curious,
Mm-hmm.
read widely,
Yeah.
and never stop seeking out new knowledge and experiences.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Building connections, embracing diversity,
Mm-hmm.
staying curious, all good stuff.
Right.
What else?
Well, this one might be a little harder for some people.
Okay.
Be comfortable with discomfort
Okay.
and don't shy away from risk.
Yeah.
Leadership isn't always easy or predictable.
Yeah.
You're going to face challenges, you're going to make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have to make tough calls. The key is to embrace those moments as opportunities for growth and learning.
So it's about having the courage to step outside your comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
and not being afraid to fail.
Right.
That's powerful stuff.
Right.
Anything else?
One more, and this is a big one.
Okay.
Commit to personal responsibility. Always.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you are accountable for your actions and your decisions.
Right.
Own your mistakes, learn from them, and keep moving forward.
Wow. Those are some powerful qualities.
Hmm.
Build strong relationships, make learning a lifestyle,
Yeah.
embrace discomfort and risk, and be personally accountable.
Right.
If you can master those things, it sounds like you'd be well on your way to becoming a truly effective leader.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And, as we've been talking about all these high-level principles, I
Yeah.
keep thinking back to something we touched on earlier.
Okay.
Remember that move towards horizontal organizations?
Right. Less hierarchy, more collaboration, more distributed leadership.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't really dig into how that actually works in practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's something our listener would really benefit from.
Okay.
Luckily, one of the sources provides a really insightful framework for managing change and transitioning to a more systems thinking approach.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Give me the inside scoop on how to make this horizontal thing work.
Well, the first thing they emphasized was the importance of shared values.
Okay.
You can't just flatten the structure and expect everything to magically fall into place.
Right.
Everyone in the organization needs to be aligned around a common set of values and a shared understanding of the bigger picture.
So it's about creating a sense of unity and purpose,
Mm-hmm.
even though the traditional power structures are being dismantled.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the other key ingredient is clear communication.
Okay.
Leaders need to be able to articulate their vision,
Right.
explain the why behind the change,
Mm.
and get everyone on board with the new way of working.
I can see how that would be crucial.
Mm-hmm.
Change can be scary,
It can.
and people are more likely to resist if they don't understand why it's happening
Yeah,
or where they fit into the new structure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And this source also made a really interesting point about leadership development.
Okay.
It argued that in a horizontal organization, every leader becomes responsible for developing the talent around them,
Okay.
planning for succession,
Right.
and championing diversity.
Wow. That really shifts the responsibility.
It does.
So it's not just about leading in the present moment,
Right.
but also ensuring that there's a pipeline of capable leaders coming up behind you.
Precisely.
Okay.
And they stress that this development has to be intentional and ongoing.
Right.
It's not enough to just send people to a training course once a year.
Yeah.
Leaders need to be given opportunities for growth, mentorship,
Okay.
and stretch assignments that push them outside their comfort zones.
So it's about creating a culture of continuous learning and development where everyone is encouraged to grow and take on new challenges.
Exactly.
Okay.
And remember, it's not just about formal training programs.
Yeah.
It's about fostering an environment where people can learn from each other,
Right.
share their knowledge, and grow together.
That's a great point. And it really underscores that idea of collaboration and shared leadership that we've been talking about. But, we can't talk about leadership in the future without talking about inclusivity.
Right.
It's no longer optional. It's a must-have.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have a source that can really help us here.
Okay.
It was written by a former Disney executive,
Mm-hmm.
and it offers some really practical tips on how leaders can foster a truly inclusive environment where everyone feels valued and respected.
Okay, this sounds like required reading for any leader who wants to be successful in the future.
Right.
What are some of the key takeaways?
Well, he starts by emphasizing the importance of leading by example.
Okay.
Leaders need to be the living embodiment of the values they want to see in their organizations. If you want people to treat each other with respect, you have to model that behavior yourself. It's also about being a good communicator,
Okay.
truly listening to what people have to say,
Right.
and recognizing and rewarding good work.
So it's about creating a culture of appreciation and respect where everyone feels seen and heard.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he even gives 10 very specific things that leaders can do to promote inclusivity.
Okay.
It starts with simple but powerful things like making sure everyone feels welcome and treating everyone with respect.
Right.
He also talks about creating opportunities for people to share their unique perspectives and experiences,
Okay.
and actively seeking out diverse viewpoints when making decisions.
It sounds so basic when you put it that way,
It is.
but you'd be surprised how often those fundamental principles get overlooked.
It's true.
Yeah.
But the organizations that will thrive in the future are the ones that get this right. The ones that create environments where everyone feels empowered to contribute their best,
Right.
regardless of their background or beliefs.
And that makes sense not just from an ethical standpoint,
Right.
but from a strategic one as well.
Yeah.
When you have a diverse workforce that feels valued and respected, you get a wider range of perspectives, ideas, and approaches to problem solving. That has to translate into better decision-making and ultimately a more successful organization.
Absolutely.
Right.
Diversity and inclusion aren't just buzzwords.
Yeah.
They're essential ingredients for success in the 21st century.
And it's not just about diversity of race, gender, or ethnicity either. It's about diversity of thought, experience, background, everything that makes us unique as individuals.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
You want people who can challenge your assumptions,
Right.
bring new ideas to the table,
Yeah.
and help you see the world from different angles.
So we've talked about horizontal structures, we've talked about inclusivity, and we've talked about developing leadership skills as a perpetual practice. But one thing that keeps coming up is the importance of organizational culture.
Right. And one of the sources really dives into this,
Okay.
highlighting the importance of understanding and managing the different subcultures that exist within any organization.
Oh, that's fascinating. So it's like having these mini cultures within the larger organizational culture.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to navigate that?
Well, this source described a process called the Delphi process
Okay.
that was used at General Foods to facilitate dialogue and build understanding between different subcultures.
Tell me more about that. How does the Delphi process work?
It's basically a structured approach that brings people together from different parts of the organization.
Okay.
to share their perspectives, analyze different options,
Okay.
and work towards a shared understanding.
That sounds incredibly useful for bridging cultural divides and creating a more unified organization.
It can be.
Yeah.
And the key takeaway from the source is that leaders need to create a climate where people feel safe to speak up,
Okay.
share their ideas.
And challenge the status quo.
So it's about fostering a culture of open communication and what some people call psychological safety.
Right.
It's that feeling that you can be your authentic self, express your opinions without fear of reprisal, and know that your voice will be heard.
Exactly. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, building trust and respect.
Right.
When people feel safe and valued, they're more likely to bring their whole selves to work and contribute their best ideas.
It really feels like all these pieces are fitting together.
Yeah.
It's less about top-down control and more about creating an environment where everyone feels empowered to contribute, where diverse perspectives are valued, and where learning and growth are a constant process.
You've got it.
Yeah.
And one source actually used the term horizontal leadership to describe this new way of leading.
Okay.
It's about moving away from hierarchies and embracing a more collaborative, team-based approach.
Horizontal leadership.
I love it.
Yeah.
It just sounds so much more dynamic and engaging than the old way of doing things.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it feels much more aligned with the fast-paced, constantly changing world we live in.
So to recap,
Okay.
we've got horizontal leadership, a focus on those 5 key capabilities: talent, leadership, agility, outside-in connection, and purpose.
Right.
And we're seeing this emphasis on inclusivity, continuous learning, and building a culture of trust and respect.
Absolutely. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But I think it paints a really exciting picture of what leadership can look like in the future.
Yeah.
It's not about clinging to old models, but
Right.
about embracing new ways of thinking and working.
It's like we're on the cusp of a leadership revolution.
I think so.
But I have to admit, I'm still a little fuzzy on how all of this translates into action.
Yeah.
What does it actually look like to lead in this new way?
That's a great question. And one of the best ways to understand it is to look at examples of organizations that are already putting these principles into practice.
Okay.
One that comes to mind is the Boys and Girls Clubs of America.
Right.
They've really embraced this idea of community engagement and partnership building. And they're doing some incredible work creating opportunities for youth development.
Oh, wow. The Boys and Girls Clubs.
Yeah.
I used to go there when I was a kid.
Oh, cool.
I had no idea. They were so forward-thinking in their approach to leadership.
They are, and their story is a great example of how organizations can leverage their resources and partnerships to make a real difference.
Okay.
They've partnered with companies like Microsoft to bridge the digital divide and give kids access to technology and learning opportunities.
Wow.
They're also really focused on building strong relationships within their communities, working with schools, businesses, and other organizations to create a support system for young people.
That's amazing. It sounds like they're really living out those principles of outside-in connection and purpose that we were talking about.
They are, and it's a great reminder that this isn't just about some abstract theory of leadership.
Right.
These principles can be applied in all sorts of organizations, big and small, to create real positive change in the world.
And speaking of organizations that are doing things differently, one of the sources talked about the Manchester Bidwell Corporation.
Oh, yeah.
They run a community arts center in Pittsburgh, and they've created this really unique and inspiring environment that fosters creativity, personal growth, and community engagement.
Oh, I love the Manchester Bidwell Corporation.
Yeah.
Their founder had this vision of creating a space that would inspire hope and possibility for people who had been marginalized or overlooked.
Right.
He believed that beauty and creativity could be transformative.
Yeah.
And he created a stunning facility that reflected those values.
So it's not just about the programs they offer, but the environment itself is designed to uplift and inspire.
Exactly. They've had incredible success in helping people develop their artistic talents, build confidence, and connect with their community.
It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that leadership can manifest in so many different ways.
It really can.
It's not just about sitting in a corner office and giving orders.
Right.
It's about creating spaces and opportunities for people to grow and thrive.
You're so right.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about another challenge that leaders are facing today, this constant pressure to adapt and evolve in the face of unprecedented change.
Oh, absolutely. We've talked about how globalization, technology, and demographics are transforming the business landscape.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't really explored what that means for leaders on a personal level.
One of the sources put it really well.
Okay.
They said that leaders today need to be able to anticipate and adapt to change,
Right.
not just react to it. That requires a different kind of mindset.
Yeah.
A willingness to embrace the unknown and to constantly be learning and evolving.
So it's about being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Exactly. And being able to pivot and adjust course when things don't go according to plan.
It sounds like resilience is going to be a key trait for leaders in the future.
Right.
The ability to bounce back from setbacks, learn from mistakes, and keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the sources described the leader of the future as someone who isn't afraid to challenge the status quo,
Okay.
take risks, and make tough decisions.
So it's about being bold and decisive, but also compassionate and understanding.
Exactly. It's a tricky balance to strike,
Yeah.
but I think it's essential for leading effectively in a complex and rapidly changing world.
Right.
And, as we're talking about all these challenges and opportunities, I keep thinking back to that idea of leadership as a perpetual practice.
Me too. It's such a powerful concept.
Yeah.
It reminds us that leadership isn't about achieving some kind of perfect state or having all the answers.
Right.
It's about being on a continuous journey of learning, growth, and evolution.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong adventure of discovering new possibilities, pushing boundaries, and becoming the best leader you can be.
And one of the things that wasn't explicitly mentioned in these sources,
Yeah.
but that I think is incredibly relevant, is the role of technology in all of this.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
We talked about how technology is driving change in the business landscape.
Right.
But we didn't really dive into how it's impacting leadership itself.
The whole other can of worms.
It is.
On one hand, technology can be an incredible tool for connecting people,
Right.
facilitating collaboration,
Yep.
and empowering individuals.
Absolutely. Think about how we use technology to communicate, share information, and work together even when we're miles apart.
Right.
It's revolutionized the way we work.
But on the flip side, there are also some potential downsides.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about things like information overload,
Mm-hmm.
constant distractions,
Right.
and that blurring of boundaries between work and personal life.
That's a real concern. And it raises some important questions for leaders.
Right?
How do you harness the power of technology without letting it take over?
Yeah.
How do you create healthy boundaries for yourself and your team?
Right.
How do you stay connected to what really matters in a world that's increasingly virtual?
Those are big questions.
They are.
It seems like being a tech-savvy leader is no longer enough.
Right.
You also need to be a human-centric leader,
Mm-hmm.
someone who understands the importance of balance, well-being, and genuine connection.
Couldn't agree more. And I think leaders have a responsibility to model those healthy habits for their teams.
Absolutely. Leadership is about setting the tone,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that includes setting the tone for how we use technology.
This is a conversation we're going to be having for a long time to come.
Yeah.
Technology is evolving so rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to continue to shape the way we work and lead in ways we can't even imagine yet.
It's both exciting and a little daunting, isn't it?
It is. But I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
I think we have a real opportunity to shape the future of leadership in a way that's both innovative and human-centered.
Well said.
Sure.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the future of leadership.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm feeling incredibly inspired by all these ideas and examples.
You too. It's been a real privilege to explore this topic with you.
I know our listeners walking away with a lot to think about.
I think so.
But before we sign off,
Yeah.
I'm going to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
Something that wasn't directly addressed in these sources, but that I think is so important. The role of creativity and innovation in leadership.
Oh, that's interesting.
In a world that's changing so rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
leaders need to be more than just managers.
Right.
They need to be visionaries,
Uh-huh.
problem solvers, and creative thinkers.
You're so right. And that connects back to what we were talking about earlier, being comfortable with discomfort and embracing risk. Creativity and innovation often require us to step outside of our comfort zones and try new things.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture where it's okay to experiment,
Mhm.
to fail, and to learn from those mistakes.
Right.
A culture that encourages curiosity, exploration, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
Those are the organizations that will thrive in the future.
Yeah.
The ones that can adapt, innovate, and lead the way into the unknown.
So to our listener, We challenge you to think about how you can cultivate your own creativity and innovation as a leader.
Yeah.
What new ideas can you bring to the table? How can you encourage experimentation and risk-taking within your team? How can you embrace a mindset of continuous learning and growth?
These are questions worth pondering.
Yeah.
And remember, the future of leadership isn't something that happens to us. It's something we create together.
Beautifully said.
Thanks.
And on that note, we'll leave you to dive deeper into these ideas.
Right.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep leading the way.